The year was 2157, and humanity had spread beyond Earth. People lived on Mars, Europa, and in homes built on large asteroids. Earth had changed too. Countries still existed, but they all worked together under the United Earth Council. Captain Sharon Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant and looked at the main screen. The alien ships hung in the darkness like strange sea creatures. There were 7 of them, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. "How long until they respond?" Sharon asked, trying to keep her voice calm. Paul Winters, her communications officer, shook his head. "Nothing yet, Captain. I've sent our greeting message 3 times now." Sharon nodded and walked to the viewport. The USS Valiant was Earth's best diplomatic vessel. Its job was to meet new alien species and make friends. Until today, they had only met 2 other intelligent species in space. Both meetings had gone well. This was different. "Captain, we're getting something," Paul said suddenly. "They're transmitting in multiple formats. One matches our basic communication standards." "Put it on screen," Sharon ordered. The screen flickered and showed an alien. It had purple-gray skin that looked like armor. Its eyes were large and black with no visible pupils. 4 arms were folded across its chest. "Greetings, humans," the alien said in perfect English. "We are the Zarathi Imperium. We have observed your civilization for some time. We wish to establish diplomatic relations." Sharon stepped forward. "I am Captain Sharon Miller of the United Earth Council vessel Valiant. We welcome peaceful contact with the Zarathi Imperium." The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. "Excellent. We invite you and your senior officers to visit our command ship for formal introductions. It is our custom to exchange information and gifts." Sharon looked at her first officer, Commander Rick Davis. His face showed concern. "Is something wrong, Commander?" she asked quietly. "It seems too easy, Captain," Rick whispered. "They speak perfect English. They know our protocols." Sharon nodded slightly. "I agree, but we can't refuse without seeming hostile." She turned back to the screen. "We accept your invitation. Please send docking instructions." "Wise choice, Captain," the alien said. "Instructions are being transmitted now." 2 hours later, Sharon led a team of 8 people from the Valiant to the alien ship. With her were Rick Davis, Paul Winters, Security Chief Olivia Russell, and 4 other officers. They wore their best uniforms, and each carried a small gift, examples of Earth art and music. The docking bay of the alien ship was enormous. It could have held 5 ships the size of the Valiant. The walls were made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. A group of aliens waited for them. The one in front stepped forward. "Captain Miller, I am High Commander Zorix. Welcome aboard the Dominance." Sharon bowed slightly. "Thank you for your invitation, High Commander." Zorix led them through long hallways into what appeared to be a meeting room. A large table made of the same dark metal filled the center. Around it were chairs that looked like they would fit both humans and the 4-armed Zarathi. "Please be seated," Zorix said. "Refreshments will arrive shortly." The humans sat down carefully. Olivia Russell kept her hand near her sidearm, her eyes constantly scanning the room. "Your vessel is impressive," Sharon said. "The Zarathi must be accomplished engineers." "We are accomplished in many ways," Zorix replied. "Much more so than most species we encounter." Several smaller aliens entered, with trays of food and drink. They placed these on the table and left silently. "Please enjoy," Zorix said. "These have been prepared to be safe for human consumption." Sharon nodded to her team, but gave a small hand signal that meant, "Be cautious." Paul Winters took out a small device and scanned the food secretly under the table. He gave a tiny nod. The food was safe. "Tell me, Captain," Zorix said, "how does your species handle conflict?" Sharon paused before answering. "We try to resolve differences through discussion and compromise. War is a last resort." "Interesting," Zorix said. "And if someone took something of yours? Something valuable?" "We would ask for its return," Sharon replied carefully. "And if they refused?" "That would depend on what was taken and why." Zorix made That strange smile-like gesture again. A diplomatic answer. The conversation continued for almost an hour. The Zarathi asked many questions about Earth's government, military, and resources. They answered few questions about themselves. Sharon was beginning to feel uncomfortable when Zorik stood suddenly. "I believe we have learned enough for now," the alien said. "It is time to move to the next phase of our meeting." Before Sharon could ask what that meant, doors slid open on all sides of the room. Dozens of armed Zarathi rushed in, weapons pointed at the humans. "What is this?" Sharon demanded, rising to her feet. "This is business, Captain," Zorik said calmly. "The Zarathi Imperium has found that new species understand certain realities better after a demonstration." Olivia Russell moved quickly, drawing her weapon, but the aliens were faster. A blue light flashed from one of their weapons and she fell to the floor, stunned. "Please don't resist," Zorik said. "The effects are temporary but can become permanent if applied repeatedly." Sharon held up her hands. "What do you want from us?" "You are now guests of the Zarathi Imperium," Zorik explained. "Your government will be contacted with terms for your return." "You mean we're hostages?" Rick Davis said angrily. "A crude term but accurate," Zorik admitted. "Don't worry. All species pay. It is simply how civilized space operates." The humans were separated and led to individual cells. Sharon tried to memorize the path they took through the ship, but it was too complex, with too many turns. Her cell was small but not uncomfortable. There was a bed, a sink, and a device that seemed to be a toilet. No windows, just smooth walls and a door that had no handle on her side. Hours later, she heard Zorix's voice coming from a speaker. "Captain Miller, your ship has been informed of the situation. We have demanded resources equal to 30% of Earth's yearly production. Your people have 30 days to deliver. After that, we will execute one hostage each day until payment is made." Sharon walked to the center of the cell and looked up at where she thought a camera might be. "You've made a mistake," she said clearly. "Humans don't respond well to threats." "All species say something similar," Zorix's voice replied. "Yet all species pay. You will too." Sharon sat on the bed and began to think. The alien seemed very confident, too confident. She needed to find out why, and she needed to contact the others. Somehow they had to let Earth know not to give in to these demands because she knew one thing for sure. Whatever Earth's response would be, it wouldn't be what the Zarathi expected. President Eleanor Franklin stood at the head of the long table in the United Earth Council emergency chamber. Her face was grim as she looked at the 20 representatives from Earth's most powerful nations. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of air filters. "The transmission from the Zarathi ship came in 3 hours ago," she said. "You've all seen it. They have our people and want resources worth 30% of our global production." Admiral Gregory Bennett, head of Earth's Defense Forces, slammed his fist on the table. "This is an act of war. We should respond with force." "With what?" asked UN Ambassador Christopher Jones. "Their ships are bigger than anything we have. We don't know their weapons. We could lose everything." The room erupted in argument. President Franklin waited, then raised her hand. The room fell quiet again. "Dr. Price, you've studied the message. What do you think?" Dr. Samantha Price, Earth's leading expert on alien cultures, stood up. She was a small woman with short gray hair and intelligent eyes. "The most important part was what they said at the end," she said. "They told us all species pay. This suggests they've done this before, many times. This isn't their first contact with a new civilization. It's a business model." The council members looked at each other. The idea that the aliens were simply space pirates was somehow both frightening and comforting. "So we're not special," Ambassador Jones said. "They're just cosmic highway robbers." "Exactly," Dr. Price agreed. "And they expect us to behave like all the other species they've encountered. They expect us to pay." President Franklin nodded slowly. "So the question is, do we do what they expect?" The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for payment to save the hostages. Others wanted immediate military action. A few suggested trying to negotiate a lower price. Finally, President Franklin raised her hand again. "We've heard all views," she said. "Now we must decide. In human history, paying ransoms has never stopped kidnappers. It only encourages more kidnapping. I believe the same principle applies here." She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "Humans don't pay ransoms to terrorists, no matter what planet they're from. Are we united on this?" One by one, the council members nodded. "Good," the president continued. "Then we need a different solution. Admiral Bennett, tell us about Operation Liberty Bell." Admiral Bennett stood and pressed a button on the table. A holographic display appeared showing a sleek, dark ship. "This is the USS Intrepid," he said. "It's our newest and most advanced stealth warship. It uses what we call dark drive technology, which makes it nearly impossible to detect." The hologram changed to show a man with a weathered face and serious eyes. "This is Captain Ryan Donovan. He's commanded the Intrepid for 3 years. He's the best we have." Another image appeared, showing a woman in combat gear. "And this is Commander Zoe Martinez. She leads our most elite Navy SEAL team. They've trained for space combat and rescue operations." President Franklin looked at the images with approval. "What's your plan, Admiral?" "The Intrepid can approach the Zarathi fleet without being detected," Admiral Bennett explained. "Commander Martinez and her team will board the alien flagship, find our people, and get them out." "And if they encounter resistance?" Ambassador Jones asked. "They'll deal with it," Admiral Bennett said firmly. President Franklin nodded. "Make it happen, Admiral. Meanwhile, we need to send a response to the Zarathi." Back on the Zarathi ship, Sharon Miller paced in her cell. She had been counting steps and time, trying to build a mental map of where she might be in the ship. The door slid open suddenly and 2 guards entered. "Come," one of them said. "High Commander wants you." They led her through the corridors to a room she hadn't seen before. It looked like a command center. High Commander Zorik stood in the middle, surrounded by screens showing different parts of the ship. "Captain Miller," Zorik said, "your people have responded to our demands I thought you might want to see." A large screen lit up showing President Franklin. Her face was calm and determined. "This message is for the Zarathi Imperium," the president said. "We have received your demands regarding our citizens. Earth's response is simple. We decline your offer." Sharon felt a mixture of pride and fear. She glanced at Zorix and saw confusion on the alien's face. "We understand you believe all species pay," President Franklin continued. "But humans are different. We do not negotiate with hostage takers. We do not pay ransoms. This has been our policy for centuries." Sharon watched Zorix's reaction carefully. The alien's forehands were clenched into fists. "Instead, we offer a counter-proposal," the president said. "Return our people immediately and leave our solar system. If you do this, we will consider this incident closed." "And if we refuse?" Zorix asked the screen, though it was clearly a recording. "If you refuse," President Franklin said as if answering the question, "you will learn why it is unwise to threaten humans. You have 24 hours to decide." The message ended. Zorix turned to Sharon, all 4 arms spread wide. "Is this a joke?" the alien demanded. "Your people cannot possibly think they can defeat the Zarathi Imperium." Sharon shrugged. "We've faced impossible odds before." "No species has ever refused to pay," Zorix said, voice rising. "It makes no sense." "Like the president said, humans are different," Sharon replied. Zorix made a gesture, and the guards took Sharon back to her cell. As they walked, she saw Paul Winters being led down a different corridor. He caught her eye and gave a tiny nod. "Good." They were establishing contact. Back in her cell, Sharon found something new. Under her pillow was a small metal object. It looked like a button from a uniform. She picked it up carefully and examined it. There was a tiny switch on one side. She pressed it. "Captain, can you hear me?" It was Olivia Russell's voice. Very faint. "Olivia, how is this possible?" Sharon whispered. "I managed to modify a communicator," Olivia replied. "The Zarathi don't understand human technology very well. They didn't take all our equipment." "Who else can hear us?" "So far, just Paul and Commander Davis." I'm working on reaching the others. Sharon smiled. Good work. What have you learned about the ship? Their security systems are strange, Olivia said. Advanced in some ways, but with basic flaws. It's like they've never needed tight security before. Because no one's ever fought back, Sharon realized. All species pay. Exactly, Olivia confirmed. I think I can access their internal systems given time. Do it, Sharon ordered. Find out everything you can about ship layout, crew numbers, and especially communications. We need to be ready. Ready for what, Captain? Sharon looked up at the ceiling of her cell and smiled. Earth isn't going to pay, Olivia. That means they're coming for us. And when they do, we need to be ready to help. Millions of miles away, on the dark side of Jupiter's moon Callisto, the USS Intrepid powered up its engines. Captain Ryan Donovan sat in the command chair, reviewing the mission one, last time with Commander Zoe Martinez. The most important thing, he said, is getting all the hostages out alive. Zoe nodded, her face serious. My team is ready. If these aliens think humans are just like everyone else they've encountered, they're in for a big surprise. Operation. Liberty Bell is a go, Ryan said. Let's bring our people home. High Commander Zorik stared at the message from Earth playing on the screen for the 5th time. His top advisors stood around him in the command center, all 4 arms of each Zarathi held carefully at their sides. They refuse to pay, Zorik said. No species has ever refused to pay. The chief advisor, Malchus, stepped forward. Perhaps they are bluffing. They must know they cannot defeat us. Perhaps, Zorix agreed. Or perhaps they are truly different. He turned and moved to a large display, showing their fleet positioned at the edge of the solar system, 7 massive ships each capable of destroying a small moon. Send a new message, Zorix ordered. Tell them we will begin executing hostages tomorrow instead of waiting 30 days. Is that wise, High Commander? Malchus asked. Our usual procedure assumes species that behave rationally, Zorix snapped. These humans are not behaving as expected. We must show them we are serious. Malchus bowed and left to prepare the message. Zorix stared at the image of Earth on another screen. Such a small planet. Such stubborn inhabitants. In her cell, Sharon Miller was busy. Using the tiny communicator from Olivia, she had contacted all 8 members of her team. They were spread throughout the ship, but all were working on their part of a growing plan. Paul, what have you found? She whispered into the communicator. I've managed to tap into their internal network. Paul, Winters replied. His voice was tired but excited. Their communication systems are advanced but not well protected. They didn't expect prisoners to understand their technology. Can you send messages between ships? Not yet, but I can access internal ship communications. I can even create false messages that seem to come from their commanders. Sharon smiled. Excellent. And Olivia? Security systems are a mess, Olivia reported. They have powerful weapons, but basic locks. They've never needed better because no one ever resists. Rick, what about the ship layout? Commander Rick Davis had been using his daily bathroom breaks to map as much of the ship as possible. It's big, Captain. Really big. But I've figured out that all our cells are in the same section, 2 decks below the main command center. There's a hangar bay 3 decks down that holds smaller ships. Sharon nodded to herself. They were making progress. Keep working, everyone. Earth won't pay their ransom. That means they'll be coming for us and we need to be ready. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Intrepid, Captain Ryan Donovan studied the sensor readings of the Zarathi fleet. His ship was hiding in the shadow of a large asteroid, using its dark drive technology to remain undetected. What do you think? He asked Commander Zoe Martinez, who stood next to him looking at the display. Their ships are big, Zoe said. But big doesn't always mean better. Ryan nodded. Any weaknesses? Dr. Harold Wright, the ship's science officer, pointed to specific areas on the alien ships. Their engines use an unusual form of plasma containment. Our scans show they might be vulnerable to targeted electromagnetic pulses. Could we disable their ships without harming the people inside? Ryan asked. In theory, yes, Dr. Wright said. But we'd need to get very close. Zoe smiled. Getting close is my specialty. She turned to a display showing 12 men and women in advanced spacesuits. My team is ready. These suits are designed for space infiltration. They have built-in propulsion, armor, and enough air for 8 hours. Good, Ryan said, because we just received new intel from Earth. The Zarathi have threatened to start executions tomorrow. We move tonight. Back on the Zarathi flagship, Sharon was surprised when her cell door opened and a guard took her to a small room where Paul Winters was waiting. 5 minutes, the guard said, then left them alone. Why did they put us together? Sharon whispered. They're rotating us, Paul explained quickly. Each of us gets 5 minutes with another crew member every few hours. I think they're trying to show they're being reasonable before they start killing us. Sharon nodded. Then we don't have much time. What else have you learned about their communications? Something interesting, Paul said. They rely heavily on automated systems. Most of their internal orders are sent through computer networks not given in person. So if someone could access those networks, they could cause chaos, Paul finished. I've almost figured out how to do it. The door opened and the guard returned. Time to go back. As Sharon was led away, she saw Commander Rick Davis being brought in to meet with Paul next. They exchanged quick glances. The plan was growing. In her cell, Sharon found Olivia had sent a new message through the hidden communicator. Captain, I've found something important, Olivia's voice said. The Zarathi have records of 17 other species they've done this to. All of them paid. But here's the interesting part. The Zarathi aren't good fighters. They rely on fear. And their big ships. Their actual security forces are small and not well trained. Sharon thought about this. They don't expect resistance because they've never faced it. Exactly, Olivia replied. They're bullies, not warriors. In another part of the ship, Rick Davis was being returned to his cell when he saw something through a viewport. For just a moment he thought he saw a flash of movement against the stars, something small and dark, moving closer to the ship. He kept his face neutral, not wanting the guard to notice his excitement. Earth wasn't just coming. Earth was already here. The USS Intrepid moved silently through space, its dark drive making it nearly invisible to the Zarathi sensors. On the bridge, Captain Ryan Donovan gave final orders. Dr. Wright, prepare the EMP spear. Target their engine section only. Yes, Captain. Dr. Wright replied, fingers moving over his console. Commander Martinez, is your team ready? Zoe, now in her space infiltration suit, nodded. We launch in 5 minutes. Once we're inside, we'll locate the hostages and get them out. Be careful, Ryan warned. We don't know much about these aliens. Zoe checked her weapon. They don't know much about us either, and I think they're about to get a very unpleasant surprise. In the launch bay, Zoe joined her team of 11 SEAL operatives. Each wore a black spacesuit with built-in weapons and tools for space combat. Remember, she told them, our priority is getting the hostages out. We go in quiet, find our people, and get back to the ship. And if we meet resistance? Asked Lieutenant Peter Garcia, her second in command. Zoe's face was serious. Then we show these aliens why humans don't pay ransoms. The launch bay doors opened, revealing the vast blackness of space. The massive shape of the Zarathi flagship loomed ahead, its surface dotted with lights. Zoe activated her suit's propulsion system. Operation Liberty Bell is go. Let's bring our people home. She pushed off from the Intrepid, leading her team toward the alien ship. Behind them, the EMP spear was being prepared. Ahead of them, the hostages were getting ready for rescue, and the Zarathi were about to learn an important lesson about humans. Zoe Martinez and her team of SEAL operatives moved through space toward the huge Zarathi ship. Their black suits made them almost invisible against the darkness. The only sound was their breathing inside their helmets. Target approaching, Lieutenant, Peter Garcia said over the comm. Entry point in sight, Zoe saw it too. A small maintenance hatch on the lower section of the alien ship. According to their scans, it wasn't well guarded. Remember, Zoe told her team, we go in quiet. No weapons fire unless absolutely necessary. Our job is to find our people and get out. What about the Zarathi? Another team member asked. Avoid them if possible, Zoe replied. But if they get in our way, show them why humans are feared even by other humans. They reached the hatch. Lieutenant Garcia attached a small device to the alien lock mechanism. It blinked for a few seconds, then turned green. The hatch slid open. We're in, Zoe reported back to the Intrepid. Beginning Phase 2. Inside the Zarathi ship, Sharon Miller felt her hidden communicator vibrate. She carefully pulled it out from under her pillow. Captain, Olivia's voice whispered. I've done it. I can access their security systems. I can open any door on the ship. Sharon smiled. Perfect timing. How are the others? All ready, Olivia replied. Paul can send false messages through their communication system. Rick has mapped most of the important areas of the ship. Good, because I think our rescue is coming soon. Be ready to move when I give the signal. On the bridge of the Zarathi, flagship, High Commander Zorix was becoming increasingly frustrated. He had sent the new threat to Earth hours ago, and there was still no response. This makes no sense, he growled at his advisors. They must know we will carry out our threat. Perhaps they need more proof of our seriousness, Malchus suggested. We could execute one hostage now and send the video. Zorix considered this. Yes. Bring the human captain to the bridge. We will make an example of her. Malchus bowed and sent the order through the ship's communication system. In the maintenance tunnels of the ship, Zoe's team moved carefully through the dimly lit passageways. They had studied the ship's layout from scan data, but being inside was different. Life signs ahead, Lieutenant Garcia whispered, checking a small device on his wrist. 2 Zarathi. Zoe nodded and signaled for 2 of her team to move forward. The SEAL operatives slipped ahead and disappeared around a corner. There was a brief sound of struggle, then silence. Clear, came the whispered report. The team continued forward, moving closer to where they believed the human hostages were being held. Captain Donovan, Zoe said into her comm, we're approaching the detention area, ready to deploy the EMP on your command. Standing by, Ryan's voice replied from the Intrepid. Dr. Wright reports the EMP spear is ready. Just give the word. In Tiao. Her cell, Sharon was preparing herself when the door suddenly slid open. A Zarathi guard stood there. Come, the guard ordered. High Commander wants you. Sharon stepped out, carefully hiding the communicator in her hand. As the guard led her down the corridor, she pressed the tiny button to signal the others. It's starting, she whispered. Olivia, get ready to open all the doors. Paul, send the false orders. Rick, be ready to lead everyone to the hangar bay. The guard led Sharon toward an elevator that would take them to the bridge. She knew this might be her only chance. You know, she said casually to the guard. On Earth, we have a saying about hostages. The guard looked at her with uninterested black eyes. What saying? Sharon smiled. We say they should always be ready to rescue themselves. She moved suddenly, using combat training she had received in the Earth Defense Force. The guard, surprised by the attack, fell unconscious to the floor. Sharon grabbed the guard's weapon and communicator. Olivia, now! Throughout the ship, cell, doors slid open. The human hostages stepped out, quickly subduing the few guards who were watching them. They had been planning this for days, studying guard rotations and weaknesses. At the same time, Paul Winters activated his program in the ship's communication system. False emergency messages began blaring through the ship. Security breach in engine room. Fire reported in weapon control. All security personnel report to the hangar bay. Zarathi guards ran in different directions, confused by the contradicting orders. Outside the ship, Zoe Martinez and her team reached the detention area only to find empty cells and unconscious guards. What happened here? Lieutenant Garcia asked. Zoe checked the area and found signs of a struggle. Looks like our people decided not to wait for rescue. She activated her comm. Captain Donovan, the hostages have freed themselves. Request new. Location data. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Ryan Donovan looked at the scan data with surprise. Our sensors show human life signs moving through the ship, he reported. They appear to be heading for the lower hangar bay. That's where, We should go too, Zoe decided. And I think it's time for that distraction. Understood, Ryan replied. Deploying EMP spear in 3, 2, 1. On the Intrepid, Dr. Wright fired the weapon they had been developing. A focused beam of electromagnetic energy struck the Zarathi flagship precisely where its engines connected to the power core. Inside the Zarathi ship, the lights flickered. Secondary systems began to fail. The artificial gravity wavered. High Commander Zorik stared in shock as alarms blared across his bridge. What is happening? He demanded. Multiple systems failing, a technician reported. Engine power dropping. Communications disrupted. How is this possible? Zorik shouted. Find the human prisoners. But the ship's internal sensors were among the systems that had failed. In the corridors, Sharon led her fellow crew members toward the hangar bay. Rick Davis had memorized the route during his careful mapping of the ship. This way, he said, pointing down a dimly lit hallway. They moved quickly, using the confusion to their advantage. Most of the Zarathi they encountered were too busy responding to the false emergencies to notice them. When they reached the hangar bay doors, Olivia used her access to the security systems to open them. Inside were several small Zarathi shuttles. Can anyone fly one of these? Sharon asked. Paul Winters stepped forward. I've been studying their control systems through the network. I think I can figure it out. Good, Sharon said. Because we need to leave now. Just as they entered the hangar bay, they heard footsteps behind them. Sharon turned, raising the weapon she had taken from the guard. But instead of Zarathi, she saw humans in black spacesuits. Captain Miller? One of them asked, removing her helmet to reveal Zoe Martinez's face. Commander Zoe Martinez, Navy SEALs, we're here to rescue you. Sharon lowered her weapon and smiled. Commander, your timing is excellent. We were just about to borrow one of these shuttles. No need, Zoe replied. We have transport waiting, but first we have a message to deliver to the Zarathi. High Commander Zorix was trying to restore order on his bridge when the main screen suddenly activated. A human face appeared. Captain Ryan Donovan of the USS Intrepid. Attention Zarathi vessel, Ryan said calmly. This is the United Earth Defense Force. We have recovered our people. Your engines have been temporarily disabled by our EMP weapon. Zorik stared in shock. This is impossible. I should also inform you, Ryan continued, that we have similar weapons targeted at each of your 7 ships. We could disable your entire fleet if necessary. He paused, then added, as our president told you, humans don't pay ransoms. Remember that the next time you consider entering our space. Donovan out. The screen went dark. Zorix turned to his advisors, all 4 of his arms hanging limp at his sides. How? He asked simply. How did they do this? No one had an answer. 1 month later, Captain Sharon Miller stood in the Grand Hall of the United Earth Council building in Geneva. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating the faces of diplomats and military leaders from around the world. President Eleanor Franklin stood at the podium addressing the crowd. Today we honor the crew of the USS Valiant and the brave team from the USS Intrepid, the president said. Their courage and ingenuity in the face of the Zarathi threat has changed humanity's place in the galaxy. Sharon glanced at her crew members seated in the front row. Paul Winters, Olivia Russell, and Rick Davis sat tall in their freshly pressed uniforms. They had all received promotions for their actions aboard the alien ship. The president continued. Captain Miller and her crew showed us that, even when captured, humans never stop fighting. Commander Martinez and her team demonstrated that Earth will always come for its people, no matter the distance or danger. Zoe Martinez sat next to Sharon, her usual combat gear replaced by a formal uniform adorned with medals. Captain Ryan Donovan sat on Sharon's other side, looking slightly uncomfortable in the spotlight. But perhaps most importantly, President Franklin said, her voice growing serious, we showed the galaxy something new. We showed that there is another way to respond to bullies and terrorists. We don't pay ransoms. We stand our ground. The crowd applauded. Sharon felt pride swell in her chest, though the memories of those tense days aboard the Zarathi ship were still fresh in her mind. After the ceremony, Admiral Gregory Bennett approached Sharon with a tablet in his hand. Captain Miller, we've made some interesting discoveries from the data your communications officer extracted from the Zarathi systems, he said. Sharon took the tablet and studied the information. 17 other species? At least, the Admiral confirmed. All of them paid ransoms to the Zarathi. Some have been paying for centuries. Have we contacted them? We're trying, it's not easy. Most are deeply afraid of the Zarathi. Dr. Samantha Price joined them, her eyes bright with excitement. But that's changing. 3 species have already responded to our messages. They were stunned to learn the Zarathi fleet was disabled by a single Earth ship. Sharon handed back the tablet. The Zarathi weren't warriors. They were just bullies who had never been challenged. Exactly, Admiral Bennett agreed. And now the word is spreading. Later that evening, Sharon stood on the balcony of her hotel room, looking up at the stars. The door behind her opened and President Franklin stepped out to join her. Not enjoying the party, Captain? The President asked. Sharon smiled. Just needed some fresh air, Madam President. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking at the night sky. We've received a message, President Franklin said finally. From the Zarathi High Council. Sharon raised an eyebrow. Their government? Not just the fleet commander? It seems High Commander Zorix was acting somewhat independently. The council claims they didn't authorize his actions. Do you believe them? President Franklin laughed softly. Of course not. But they're scared now, and that's useful. She handed Sharon a small data chip. This contains information about all known spacefaring species in our sector of the galaxy. The Zarathi provided it as a gesture of goodwill. Sharon took the chip. Or as a bribe to keep us from coming after them. Perhaps, but it gives us valuable intelligence. And something else interesting, a request. What kind of request? 7 species want to meet with Earth representatives. They've been paying tribute to the Zarathi for generations. Now they want to learn how we defeated them. Sharon looked back at the stars. What will you tell them? The truth, President Franklin replied. That humanity doesn't bow to threats, that we stand together against bullies. The next morning, Sharon met with her crew for breakfast before they would all go their separate ways to new assignments. I heard we're getting a new ship, Rick Davis said as he poured coffee. Bigger and better than the Valiant. The USS Independence, Sharon confirmed. Being built right now, we'll launch in 6 months. Paul Winters grinned. And I heard we're being sent as Earth's representatives to meet with the 7 species who contacted us. 8 now, Olivia Russell corrected. Another one called overnight. They call themselves the Navari. They've been paying the Zarathi for over 300 years. Sharon shook her head in disbelief. 300 years of ransom payments. I can't imagine it. They didn't have a choice, Olivia said. Until now. At the spaceport that afternoon, Sharon watched as Commander Zoe Martinez prepared to board a shuttle that would take her back to her base. What's next for you, Commander? Sharon asked. Training, Zoe replied. We're creating 5 new special forces teams specifically for space rescue operations. After what happened with the Zarathi, Earth wants to be ready. And Captain Donovan? The Intrepid is getting upgrades, more EMP weapons, better stealth systems, and they're building 5 more ships with the same technology. Sharon nodded. Good. We'll need them. You think the Zarathi will try again? Zoe asked. Maybe not the Zarathi, Sharon said. But someone will. The galaxy just learned that humans are different. Some will respect that. Others will see it as a challenge. 6 months later, Sharon stood on the bridge of the USS Independence, Earth's newest and most advanced exploration vessel. But unlike the Valiant, this ship was not just built for diplomacy. It carried advanced weapons, stronger shields, and a complement of fighters. Captain, we're ready to depart. Rick Davis, now her first officer, reported. Thank you, Commander, Sharon replied. She looked at the view screen showing Earth growing smaller as they moved away. Set course for the Navari system. Let's go meet our new friends. Course set, Captain, the helmsman responded. Engage, Sharon ordered. As the ship accelerated away from Earth, a message came in from United Earth Command. President Franklin's face appeared on the screen. "Captain Miller, before you leave our system, I wanted to share some news," she said. "3 more species have contacted us, asking for protection from the Zarathi. It seems word is spreading fast." "What should we tell them, Madam President?" Sharon asked. President Franklin smiled. "Tell them Earth stands with those who stand for themselves, and remind everyone you meet of our simple policy." Sharon nodded, knowing exactly what the president meant. "We don't pay ransoms," she said firmly. "Not now, not ever." The USS Independence jumped to faster than light speed, carrying humanity's message to the stars.